Well, Young Thug, who along with 27 other people are facing RICO charges, actually got a glimmer of hope recently. So according to his lawyers, the district attorney's office unlawfully abused the power of the grand jury in Fulton County when it issued a subpoena to Hertz Rent-A-Car requesting, among other things, a list of vehicles that Mr. Jeffrey Williams rented out in January of 2015. The illegally issued grand jury subpoena was answered in April of 2016 with information that led law enforcement to believe that Mr. Williams rented a gray Infiniti on the date that a murder occurred. This is interesting.
Yeah.
This is actually very interesting because it looked like that whole crew was really about to just go down. And this is really the power of having the best lawyers that money could buy. Because I'm sure there's probably about a dozen people that are working on Young Thug's case right now.
Right. To find a detail this small, yeah.
Look at every single document, follow the trail, see whether this was properly, connect the dots and so forth. And as they were connecting the dots to one of the main reasons why he even got arrested, they're saying that it was a fake subpoena and that Hertz never should have given them the information. And this to me sounds like a fruit from a poison tree kind of argument.
But are we supposed to believe that this is actually going to ruin all the other evidence that they got after this? Like, I can't imagine that it would really have that effect, right?
Well, I mean, it's a thing, right? Because it's like I said, it's a fruit from a poison tree, meaning that if initially the reason they used to get a search warrant for his house was based on this, and this was fraudulent, then technically whatever they got from his house should not be admissible.
Yeah.
Right? So the switch that they found that carries 10 years just by itself, the drugs they found at his house, everything else like that, well, then that might potentially have to get thrown out.
Right.
Now, you still have other people, and you still have people that are going to be testifying and cooperating and everything else like that, but they're kind of looking at him as the kingpin of this whole situation. And if they suddenly lose the connection to the murder, which everything is sort of pinned on, this murder that happened of, YFN Lucci's guy, everything sort of revolves around that.
Right.
So I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, it is very interesting, though.
Yeah, I mean, that is a crazy situation because I feel like a lot of people in rap at this point, in terms of, it's not like anyone's actually betting on it. But if we were betting men, if we were betting on the outcome of situations like this, if I had asked you 3 weeks ago, what are the odds that Young Thug's doing 20 plus years in jail, what would you have said?
I would say rather high.
High 90s,
considering
right, yeah.
There's 28 people. Like Boosie said, you can't shake 28 eggs and expect none of them to crack.
So the idea that could actually fall apart, I mean, shit, dude, they're going to be looking like the biggest bozos in the history of local law enforcement if they manage to fuck this up, because it just felt like that's such a tidal wave of information, But I mean, I'm just such a big Young Thug fan, and it was a weird feeling to start to prematurely kind of write off the rest of his career, just assume that we might not hear another Young Thug album again. We might not hear one for 30 years at least. So yeah, I mean, I'm really, really hoping that they're all right in this whole situation. And, there's a lot of these situations, like the Melly thing is kind of similar, where it's like, I'm listening to the news and the news is putting out the information that the cops are putting out there. And I'm kind of taking that as gospel. And meanwhile, Melly has a very good reason to not be putting his side of the story out there, until it goes to trial. And there's a bunch of people like that. And so it sort of makes you want to avoid making assumptions about how these trials are going to go. But then at the same time, it's like, if people are tuning in to watch you talk about stuff on podcasts or on YouTube, whatever, they kind of want you to really be betting on your predictions of how this is going to turn out, right? Like when you hear people talk about sports, it would be kind of boring if the entire sports conversation was like, LeBron James, very good at basketball. He's very good. He's going to play tonight. He's very good. Like the conversation becomes, I think LeBron's going to put up 87 points tonight. And I think that this year he's going to, they're always trying to predict shit because they don't really have that much to talk about unless they start trying to call out how shit'll play out. So yeah, this is definitely another one of those ones that makes me sort of want to check myself about just assuming that somebody's going to be going to prison for 40 years.
Well, look, I mean, if you had a court-appointed attorney,
right,
they wouldn't have even looked at most of this shit. They'd be like, all right, I got to get this off my desk. Let me talk to the judge about what kind of plea deal we can get you. The judge offered you 25 years. If you go to trial, you might get life.
Right.
Take the 25. Well, what about all this? All that's not going to matter.
Yeah.
It's a murder trial. You're not, they got all this evidence on you. Just take it, go on with your day, take your 25 years. You might get a release date one day. I'm not looking through all this shit. I have to do this for whatever reason. And I got 5 other cases on my desk that I just need to get through. Whereas when you're a multimillionaire and you could buy the best legal help, and this goes deep. I mean, even when it goes to trial, when you're talking about this level of lawyer, you're going to have people that will sit there and analyze juries. Right. Will sit there during the jury selection process, will sit there and say, choose this person, don't choose this person.
Because if you give a lawyer $1 million, if you say I gave my lawyer $1 million, you're basically paying him a retainer that equals out to X number of hours at presumably a pretty high rate compared to a worse lawyer. And then also they're going to have a big team of other lawyers. They're going to have all these people that work for them.
You could bring in experts. You could bring in experts on every part of this trial. You could bring in an expert that will say, no, this is wrong.
Right.
And I have all these years of experience. I mean, look what happened with OJ.
Right.
OJ, which I think most of the world feels like he did it, he was able to buy experts and high-level lawyers that picked apart a case that looked like it was open and shut. From the outside looking in, it's like, okay, you have dirty cops out there and you have racists out there and everything, but how could they have faked? They would have to have a bunch of blood with them and right. splatter his blood and come up with a glove and you know, he has no excuse where he actually was at the time. Like, everyone thought this case was over, but they brought in a DNA guy, which was never done before, and they proved that, hey, listen, there's something going on. They brought in medical experts, they brought in everything else like that. So it's almost kind of interesting where, with the Atlanta DA, they know they're dealing with multimillionaires here. They know they're going to have to deal with this. So if they really did fake a subpoena, if they really did do that, that's some real dumb shit. Mm. That's some really stupid ass shit that will probably not get them reelected when it's time. Like, imagine this whole case falling apart.
I know. Everyone
walking away. Or Young Thug, Gunna, and all the main people walking away, and everyone else who did some other shit just gets their, fair sentencing and so forth. Someone just got convicted, I think, over a non-related case, but they said that they're part of YSL, and I guess
I saw that.
They're kind of corroborating certain things that the DA is trying to prove. We'll see, man. It's going to be interesting. I mean, this trial's getting pushed back to probably the middle of next year.